Remove your bike from the box. Carefully stand it upright. Take a wire cutter and snip the white zip ties off the wheel first. Be careful not to damage the rim or tire. Remove the front tire and set it down. Make sure you place the tire with the black plastic disc face up. After the front tire is removed, make sure your forks are centered in order to give the bike stability. Begin to remove the rest of the white zip ties. When cutting the zip ties, be careful not to cut the black ones. Only cut the white zip ties off. Remove the styrofoam from the rear of the bike. Make sure you leave the plastic sleeve on. Look on the inside of the frame and you will see 2 bolts. Remove those bolts. You will need them to attach the rack. The next step is to attach the handlebars. First, remove the 4 bolts on top of the handlebar clamp. Use an Allen key to start unloosening them. You can then remove the bolts the rest of the way with your fingers. Remove the top clamp. Install the handlebars and adjust their position to whatever feels comfortable, then tighten them in a diagonal fashion. All of our bikes now come with a quick release through axle. This axle has a release lever that makes installation and removal quick and easy. During shipping, the axle is installed through a plastic support bracket that can be disposed of. While holding the arch on the forks with one hand, release the lever and turn counterclockwise. This will unscrew the quick release axle from the other fork. Once it completely unscrewed from the other side, you can carefully pull it out. Remove the plastic brace that was protecting the forks during shipping. Place your foot on top of the bracket and lift up on the forks. Set the forks back on the ground and dispose of the shipping bracket. Prepare for the installation of the front tire by first removing the plastic brake caliper spacer. Just use your finger to pull it out. You can then throw that away. Remove the protective plastic disc that is covering the brake rotor. That rotor will go in between the brake pads when installing the tire. When installing the front tire, it will make your life much easier if you can recruit someone to help. You will want the other person to hold the front forks up while you roll the wheel into position. Position the silver brake rotor in between the brake pads within the caliper. After the rotor is in position, you can then line up the axle holes. The objective is to get the axle through the left side of the fork, through the wheel, and then to touch the inside of the right fork. Once you see the tip of the axle touching the inner portion of the right fork, you can then slowly rotate the axle clockwise in order to screw it into the right fork. Please be aware, the through axle can only be inserted from the left to the right. You will find an accessory box in your e-bike carton. Within the accessory box, there will be a left and right pedal, touch-up paint for any scratches, a headlight, a multi-tool, an owner's manual, and a charger. You will find the additional charger for the second battery in another box. The nut and bolt to attach the front headlight and fender can be found right above the front wheel. Take the nut off the bolt and set aside. Take the front fender out of the bubble wrap. Insert the fender through the forks and let it rest on top of the tire. Now take the previously removed bolt and insert it through the forks. On the other side, you will attach the fender first and then the light. Once the bolt is through the fender and headlight, place the nut on the end and lightly tighten. The next step is to attach the fender wires to the plastic rings at the bottom portion of the forks. Remove the bolt on the rings and place the fender wires in between the opening on the rings. Then reinsert the bolts through the rings and fender wire. After the fender wires are secure on the rings, tighten the nut on the bolt holding the fender and headlight. After the headlight is installed, you can adjust the preferred angle and then tighten the side screws. You need to tighten both sides of the screws with an Allen wrench. Now connect the headlight to the power supply cable. Whenever connecting any wire plugs, please be aware that there are arrows on the sides of each plug. Always make sure you line the arrows up so that they point to each other. It is easy to bend the pins within the plug if you are not careful. Your pedals will be identified with a WL for left and WR for right. It is important that you install the pedal identified with WL on the left side of the bike only. For both pedals, rotate towards the front tire to tighten. Once the pedal is hand tightened, please use a 15mm wrench to tighten further. Failure to follow these installation instructions will result in your pedal or crank arm getting stripped. The pedal identified with WR should only be installed on the right side. Again, rotate your pedal towards the front tire to tighten. After the pedal is finger tight, use the wrench to tighten fully. Using the left pedal on the right side, the right pedal on the left side, or turning either pedal in the wrong direction to tighten will result in stripped threading. Unfortunately, when your rear fender suffers shipping damage from UPS, installing the rear rack is made more difficult. If you see that your fender has a crease in it, and if it flares out in the back, it was most likely damaged. In order to attach the rear rack with a damaged fender, you will need to first remove the bent fender. There will be 2 screws that need to be removed. The first screw that needs to be removed is hidden under the fender near the suspension arms. We have found that the easiest way to reach that bolt is to deflate the tire a little more than how it was shipped. Cut the black zip ties holding the rear battery cable to the rack and then lift up. This will allow more room to be able to remove the second screw. Lift up on the rack and slide the damaged fender out. Then, use the provided bolts to screw the rack into the frame threads on both sides of the bike. Thank you for purchasing our product. Please reach out to us if you have any further questions.